tired of losing.
So it always makes my chest swell with pride whenever I'm joined by a British Asian and a British Indian talent, uh, who's obviously making huge waves. Varada Sethu, a huge welcome to you on Filme Shilmy. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, firstly, I mean, congratulations on a very busy and prosperous 2022. I mean, you've had what
Yeah.
three or four big releases this year. You had a
Yeah.
Netflix film, a Jurassic World film, and now a Star Wars series that's come
Yeah.
out Andor on Disney Plus. So tell me, how does it feel to be in this zone where you're constantly busy and thriving?
Oh my God. I mean, I think this is the busiest. 2021, I think, was the was the busiest year of my career. I was very, very fortunate. Unlike, I know a lot of people had a really tough time during COVID, but I was so fortunate and I felt so lucky that I booked Jurassic World and then Andor, and then I was able to, it was non-stop work in a way from, I want to say February 2021 until about October. It was just one after the other. I mean, who knows if that will happen again in my
Yeah.
life, but
Oh no,
um,
I think it will. I think it will. I think it's a great year as well in terms of representation because we obviously
yeah,
had Bridgerton earlier this year as well.
yeah.
And I think it's great to see Indian talent sort of paving their way to the mainstream now, and I think it's wonderful. And I think this journey of yours has definitely not been an overnight thing. It's obviously taken you many, many years to work towards the stage. So tell me, how would you say the representation and the opportunities have improved from since the time you began till now?
Um, I mean, I think there are a lot more there's certain in terms of the quality of writing, there's a lot more available for brown women. But also I think casting directors, I feel anyway, my experience is that they're making a conscious effort to bring in people from lots of different diversities for an audition. Whether it says, if there's any character that is ambiguous in their ethnicity, they bring in everybody, which I don't know if that was always the case before. I think if they had a vision for the character, then that's what they would stay within. So yeah, I think that's made a huge difference. I think, certainly some casting directors like Sophie Holland, they go out of their way to sort of bring people in. I mean, there's so many more. I don't want to,
Yeah, of
please
course.
don't. But I think that's what I've seen the most. So I really appreciate that because it means that, if it keeps the doors open.
Yeah.
There aren't as many doors being, shut in my face, I guess.
Right. And
Um,
one thing that always, I don't know, maybe because I've become so I was so skeptical of the lack of opportunities and the representations so much before. But I think I always am very conscious about the fact that whether they cast an Indian face or a South Asian face just for a tick box or just to kind of
yeah.
suit the criteria. So I guess, given the fact that you've been working so much in the industry, how has that made you aware in terms of the projects that you're approached with, and perhaps you, and when you make your decision, that to make sure that it's a role which is, of course, not just there to satisfy a certain criteria?
Um, the thing is, I think a lot of the time you won't really know if you are there to tick a box or not. Um, because it's not overt racism, is it? It's
No,
I'd
exactly.
like to I'd like to think that they're bringing me into the room because they think that I'm genuinely good for the part and I booked the job because I'm genuinely good for the part. But in the off chance, if I get it and I am ticking a box, then I'm going to do a damn good job that they're not thinking about me being a tick in the box. They're going to be thinking about me being the right choice.
Mhm.
And I think that's all we can do as, as any minority group, actually. If you are a tick a ticky box, um, then it's sort of, screw it, do it
Yes,
anyway, and smash it out the park
exactly.
anyway. Make it,
Absolutely.
make it,
Yes.
make it absolutely impossible for them to turn away from someone like you again. For, put it back in their face, if that's what,
No, definitely. No, very well said. And I know we kind of began the interview on quite a heavy note and a bit of a sort of societal note, but I think it was definitely very important. But look, I think your craft and your work in Star Wars Andor has been loved a lot, as Cinta Kaz. Obviously you're playing a healer and a rebel as well, a medic, so to speak. All these different aspects you're playing. It's a very powerful role. How did that opportunity come about you? And I guess to be associated with the Star Wars universe, I mean, what would you say really helped you identify with Cinta in particular?
Oof. Um, well, first and foremost, I am a huge fan of Star Wars. So, and my agent knows that already. So that was something that I guess he probably kept his eye out for. And my agency is associated with Star Wars because they also represent John Boyega. So that's how I got the opportunity, I guess, because I've worked enough, and with my previous job, there was, enough action in there for them to have to see that I can do, what they'll expect from my character.
Mhm.
In terms of relating to Cinta, I think for me personally, it was all the research that I did and all the research that we were asked to do as actors. The director, Susanna White, was brilliant. She got us all together in the room, and we, were able to have a read through of the script, which I actually wasn't sure we'd have been able to because it was in lockdown, but they managed to, get us tested and all of that, and we were safe. Um,
Mhm.
and she gave us homework to do. She gave us, documentaries to watch. And she gifted myself and Faye Massey, who plays Vel, these books called Shoot the Women First. And it is a collection of interviews of women who have been in various different rebellions across the world. So, one's in Ireland, one's in the Gaza Strip, one's so I think in terms of relating to it, it was just doing the homework, doing the research. I watched war movies, I watched war documentaries, I watched not necessarily so Adam Curtis's recent documentary, Can't Get You Out of My Head, that was one that we watched. That was something that we brought up. We talked about, Marxism and fascism and all sorts of topics. And that's how we kind of built the foundation of the beliefs that these characters have as
Mhm.
part of the rebellion against the empire.
Okay.
And also, in terms of our personal history as South Asians against colonialism, because
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one of the themes that's covered in Andor, amongst many, amongst, things like prison reform and police brutality, one of them is colonialism. There is
Wow.
this whole, race of people, you could say in episodes 4, 5, and 6, that are being uprooted from their homeland and their culture, and the Empire are, you know, using them to build their own they're using the planet, they're exploiting that planet, and they're using these people to build it, but also exiling them. And it is such a genius piece of work, and there were so many layers to it. I think the with any role, the information's out there if you go looking for it, and that's how you build a character, that's how you relate to it, because if you
Yeah.
find human connection, I think it's easy to I think it becomes a
Yeah.
lot easier to
It becomes
embody that character.
yeah, it becomes an angle for you to sort of reference everything back to, because obviously Star
Yeah.
Wars itself, it's a very wonderful fantasy, but yet uh relatable adaptation of the world that we live in,
Yeah.
and obviously with the sci-fi twist to it. So it's quite wonderful how they have created that. But I think with Star Wars, because obviously you're wearing very very larger than life costumes, and I'm sure there must have been some action involved as well. I've not seen the series yet, so I do need to watch it. It's on my watch list.
You
Um,
should. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, it looks really good actually. I saw that picture of that poster of you. Now that's what really drew me to actually have a chat with you because I was very fascinated with this whole idea. And I don't think we've ever had an Indian face ever. I don't think ever in Star Wars, right? From my understanding.
Maybe not Indian, but Kumail Nanjiani is in Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's just
Right.
gone. But he's Pakistani. But yeah,
No,
it's
but it's
not.
great for South Asian
Yeah,
generally. It's great that we're having like, brown
yeah,
faces
yeah.
basically come on to the
It's.
yeah.
I think it's only been in this last year. Indira Varma as well is in Obi-Wan. But it's you're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
It's in terms of representation. It's only a recent thing, really.
A very recent thing, and I think that's something which I'm very fascinated by as well. But in terms of, as I was saying, the action stuff, what was the physical preparations that you had to go through? Did you have to go through a lot of like training, fights, fight training and all of that as well for the show?
Not as much as I expected, actually. So I did a show called Strike Back before, and I think in a way that's kind of what trained me for it in terms of Strike Back for me built in the discipline to go to the gym almost every day or whenever I can and to take fitness seriously, which I really do now. And also, I was doing self-defense classes during that time. Had to stop during COVID, so I wasn't doing that so much when we were filming Andor, but it meant that I was very comfortable when they said they gave us some military training. So we had a couple of days with a military advisor who told us how, soldiers, I mean, I had this on Strike Back as well, but it was great to have it on Andor as a refresher, how one would carry a gun, how one would, in the army be hiding from enemy fire, how we would cover each other if we're moving from space to space, how one would search areas,
Mm.
um, all of this. And then we also had a fantastic stunts team who kind of arranged for us to practice all of our stunts. We had this big one where we jumped off quite a height, which I don't think entirely made it to the show, but it's fine. We got to do it.
You
I got to
conquered
do
your
it.
fear. You conquered your fear at least through that
Yeah,
process,
yeah.
right? Wow.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. Physically, I think a lot of the stuff I had it in me already, and I actually don't think I would have booked the job if I hadn't done Strike Back and I hadn't proven that I can do action, I can carry myself. I look like someone who could do it. Um, and I think that's what it was that I carried through to Andor, and I was able to build on that a bit more. And hopefully, I mean, I'd love to continue being like an action babe. But I would love to. I'd love that. But I would also, of course, love drama and comedy and tragedy, whatever there is, everything.
I'm glad you mentioned this actually, because I think this year has been a really powerful year in terms of bringing female stories to the forefront. More than ever, I would say. I had written an article actually, which actually explored the different strands of women that we've seen. I mean, in India, we've had films like Gangubai Kathiawadi, we've had Gehraiyan, movies like that, and then of course in the West, you've obviously had Luckiest Girl Alive and Emily, and so many titles like that, which actually focus on the emotional gray aspect of women,
Hmm.
where even if there's an antagonist role, women are being portrayed in a very unapologetic way, which is
Hmm.
great. We're finally seeing grayness. We're finally seeing emotions being presented in an unsensitized way. So for you as an actor to, be prominent at this stage of the changing face of the industry, what significance does that hold? And do you feel that this, if you ever get a chance to portray a gray character or a dark character, do you think you will also have to rely on a very dark part of your life as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, I think, I mean, so the significance is that we as a society are moving closer towards the truth. And I think that can only be a good thing. I think if we are if we are putting in the energy to actually listen to women or observe women or what's the word? It's not just observe, it's embody women as they are, as in their true essence, however unpalatable it can be. I don't want to be playing likable characters because not all women are likable. Not they're just people. They're just like
Yeah,
men.
exactly.
it's
It's a
can't believe
human,
I'm having to
human
say
thing.
this. It's a
Yeah.
human. Yeah, exactly. The closer we get to moving away from these stereotypes that women are put under, some of which can be true for some women, but not all of them. And what's great is, showing the diversity of personalities, of complication. I don't know. Life is so complicated for whatever gender you are, because
Yes.
you're human.
Mhm.
All humans are complicated, and the closer we get to portraying people as they are, as humans, and not put them in boxes, the closer we as a society move forward, I think, towards the truth and make progress. Um,
Mhm.
because it is suffocating to be put in one box. It's suffocating to be playing the same role again and again. And I feel blessed that we're now in an era where you can see so many female characters not just be the lead, but they're also just so relatable in all of their beauty and ugliness,
Yeah.
as people are. So yeah, I think the significance is huge for me and for my career as well. It means that I'll have more choice. I'll have more, you know,
Flexibility and opportunity.
flexibility, but also I'll have a much more fulfilled career than many women before me. And that's, and it's because of their work that we're here. So
Mhm.
hopefully my wish is for the next generation of women to have an even richer, um, literature to work with,
Right.
and art to work with, because that's what makes art interesting.
Right. And do you also think that, because the pandemic, it's kind of brought us all a lot closer because we were relying so much on social media and the streaming platforms, and because we were so exposed to reality on screen, do you feel that has really contributed towards this paradigm shift in terms of human representation in cinema now?
Yeah, maybe. I think a lot more people have done the reading for it. And they've done the studying, the research, the whole Black Lives Matter protests, that whole movement, I think, resulted in a lot of people looking into themselves, and, you know, figuring out their prejudices and figuring out the broken systems that exist in the world and questioning them, um and yeah, I think it has brought communities closer. I mean, it's also been quite divisive, but I think it's meant that people are appreciating the importance of storytelling coming from lots of angles,
Yeah.
and it not being from one perspective, because that isn't how life works.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many, if one event happens in a room and there are six people, that's six stories.
Mm.
It's not one story. There's going to be six stories. That's how the world works, because every person has their own experience. They have their own way of viewing things. And this is all also part of the beauty of being able to be an actor, because you can kind of like
Sort of adapt yourself into every situation and any situation, right?
yeah, you get to bring yourself um to the script, to what's happening in the script. You get the paper, you get the words, which are the sort of hard evidence, which is, I guess, like, for example, if we're going back to that room scenario, if somebody if a big blue ball dropped down into the room, the on paper it says it's a blue ball, but what I do as a character to observe the blue ball is my part in an actor. It can be, oh, it reminds me of this ball that I had in my childhood and it's something I connect to, or oh, that reminds me of the ball that my dog loved, the dog that, died last year. There's so many things you can bring to it, and that's why everybody has a different perspective on one thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, I don't know if that actually answered your
No,
question.
it does. No, it does very well, actually. And I'm glad you mentioned this because I'm going to use that to segue about acting. And, because obviously I read up that you've actually trained in Bharatanatyam and Mohiniyattam as well,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm not wrong. So it's quite wonderful how you've obviously us two, we're kind of born in Britain, but yet we're very rooted to our culture and our heritage. And I think that's so wonderful. But I think for you,
Yeah.
in terms of identity as an actor, as an artist, uh, how much has that really shaped your grammar? acting grammar? Because obviously you've grown up, like I said, with two cultures. So how do you think that's
Yeah.
really rubbed off on you?
Um, I th so I actually was born in India. We
Of
came
course.
over
Yeah.
when I was 6 years old. Which, but this is the thing. I think it cemented in me a sense of culture because for the first 6 years of my life, was surrounded by family, community, of a particular culture, specifically Kerala, you know, South Indian Hindu family culture.
Mm,
And you come to the UK and everything is very different. In some ways, it's a lot more diverse. In some ways, but I think for me, well, if we're talking about Mohiniyattam and Bharatanatyam specifically, I think the way that it's helped in my acting is it has made me um learn to be comfortable in my skin and in my body. That doesn't mean I'm a good dancer.
mhm,
I don't think I consider myself a dancer. I love dancing. I love to dance, but I don't think that's where my true calling is. But it's prepared me to be it's so easy for me because I grew up learning about the importance um of your physical expression in storytelling, because in a Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam dance, you have to play the man and the woman and the deer and
mhm.
and the peacock and all
Yes.
of these things, and you learn to embody these different elements and connect with all these different elements to tell one story. And I just think it's just a natural transition into acting. It's so easy. It goes hand in hand. Things that
Mhm,
it also helps with, fight choreography, because if you're a dancer and you get the timing and the rhythm right, you get the sense of movement right, then it all looks, a lot smoother, and it works.
mhm.
So yeah, I think in terms of how dancing's helped my career.
Yeah.
That's how that, in terms of how my identity as an Indian has helped my career, is I think it's made me feel a lot more aware of societal, uh, what's the word?
The society and the perhaps the history that we've also had, like
Yeah,
you mentioned as well, right? Like
yeah,
because India's had a very checkered past, and I
yeah.
think even now it's still really
Continues
trying
to.
hard to fight it. And I must say, I think they're doing a very good job of doing it and fighting it because we're all in this fight together, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's made me definitely aware of, culturally, like thankfully, I haven't been at the receiving end of a huge amount of racism. Of course, I have had names called at me. And it's there is some that's I hate to say it, but it kind of becomes expected in some ways.
Mm, yeah.
But it's not been the
It's been quite
the
subliminal.
dominating
Mm,
it's not been the dominating narrative in my life. In fact, for me, I think I've been lucky in that I've been surrounded by people who are very open and not xenophobic or racist, generally speaking, incredibly supportive people who not just support me but fight for me. Specifically, so my agency, for example, and my agent Jonathan, shout out to Jonathan, love you. He's great. He's and the agency, identity agency group, I remember in the first meeting that we had, one of the things they said was, we're all about breaking down boundaries. We're all about about pushing you into the door, in through the door. And if there's, like I said, ever a role that is ambiguous in ethnicity, that doesn't clearly say white girl,
yeah.
XYZ, then
Colorblind. Yeah.
we're going to put you through for it, because we deserve to be seen. We all deserve to be seen. You all deserve to be, you know, um, to hold a place.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's I don't know. I think I've been very, very lucky. But I'm sure there are elements of, I'm sure there are jobs that didn't come my way because of some, I don't know,
Yeah.
element of race. There will be something, I'm sure, there'll be something somebody said or did that, has made you think, I don't know what that.
But you know what? I'll tell you one thing, Varada. I think whichever field one is in the creative industry,
Mhm.
entertainment industry, whether you're a journalist, whether you're an actor or any other artist, I do feel it's about timing as well. I think it's all about timing. It's all about, I mean, not to quote Harry Potter here, but they never say that the wizard never chooses the wand chooses the wizard. And
Yeah,
I kind of feel like this profession is also about that, right? Like I also do think it's to timing as
yeah.
well. Would you agree as well?
Oh my God. Yeah. And that's not to, God, timing and luck say they play such a huge part in our industry, in the creative industry. I genuinely think that. And that's not me that's not me fishing for compliments or saying any like I regardless of my talent or anyone's talent, um, there are actors who are way more talented than me or just as talented as me who do not get who have not had the break that I've been able to have because just something as tiny as, luck and timing. Um, I mean, my timing has been inexplicably great this last year. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's,
It's
worked
it's a
out.
divine intervention. When you can't
Yeah,
explain it, it's
it
always in a divine intervention. I always say that as well. So perhaps
I
it was a divine
really
intervention for that.
I really really if I were to look at, I don't want to get too personal, but if I were to look at lots of things that have happened in my life in the lead up to this, um there are so many things that I just think, God, the chances of that working out were so small, and it did. The stars have aligned. There's no other way of explaining some of it, especially in lockdown at the beginning of it. It's going to sound very dramatic, but I genuinely wasn't sure if I would act again because I didn't, I mean, I'm sure a lot of creatives felt this way, but it leaves you and it just left us all in this place where it was just this, gaping vacuum where you didn't know who you were or you didn't know where your life was going. And I kind of what lockdown taught me personally was how to actually not rely on work as a value of myself.
Hmm.
It's not that do not value yourself on whether you're working or not. It needs to come from inside. And I think I didn't realize how much I'd put my worth in me working, because for me it was
Yeah,
suddenly, oh, I'm not working anymore, I'm not a good artist, I'm not a good person, I'm not worth anything. That's the kind of mentality my brain just went into.
yeah.
um and I think in that way lockdown was a blessing for me because I did a lot of work on myself. I did counseling regularly. I was seeing a therapist actually regularly from 2019, but especially over lockdown it was really really useful for me because I actually, not to take away from the work that I did, but I put my successes down to the work I did with her, with my counselor, because
Mhm.
I carried myself into the room in the audition with a whole different energy. That must have been what, what's happened. And all the jobs I've booked have been when I've been in a very good mind frame, and been in a very good place. And I think, yeah, I think that's also a massive part. It's not just timing. I think it's putting in the work and into yourself to take care of yourself, to look after your mental health, to believe in yourself, um to work
Yeah,
on your art, who you
mhm.
are, because you bring all of that to work, especially if you're a creative. And if
Yeah.
you don't do that homework, then you won't have much to offer.
No, thank you so much for sharing that firstly, because I can understand how it feels. Because I think whether you're any, like I said, any creative and whichever field in the entertainment industry, I do feel that mental health, it's so imperative to maintain one's mental health and to stay sane in this
Mhm.
environment, because it can get very uh it can get wild, and I can completely understand it. But I think it's you've done really well by embracing that idea that it's okay to not be okay, and to also make sure that you find help. And I think that's so
Yeah.
important. So thank you for sharing that. But I think, who has been your inspiration in cinema whilst growing up? And how do you think that inspiration has really kind of helped you in terms of your career so far?
Um, Inspiration in cinema. I mean, it's sort of I've now got too many. But I think to begin with, honestly, the Jurassic Park film, that was mine and my sister's favorite film when we were little. So that was a whole sort of, a dream come true. And also the Star Wars films, that was also a huge. I loved Harrison Ford. So
Mm,
him as Han Solo, but also Indiana Jones, that was one of my favorite films. And so I've always liked these kind of swashbuckling action sort of
adventure
films. I
films,
think,
yeah.
yeah, it's always been so exciting for me. Also, The Mummy, the Brendan
Oh
Fraser,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that film. I love those films.
yeah.
Um,
Totally.
and Tom Cruise as well. So it's I can't believe that I get to be in a position now where I'm kind of somehow I never thought that this would be the genre that I would end up going into. I always
Yeah.
imagined, I still hope I would love to be like a romantic lead at some point, or, drama and comedy, or all of these other genres. But I genuinely think the joy I get is from doing these kind of shows and
Mm.
films, which feed into the child in me, which is I had so much like yeah, I got such a thrill out of watching those movies, and this whole, the other planets or the other um sort of cultures that you got to experience through these
Mm.
movies. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't list any specific actors, but there's a whole genre. I also obviously love, love, love and respect brilliant actors like Meryl Streep, Tom
Mm.
Hanks, um, Robin Williams was also a favorite of mine. So yeah, I don't know. There's a whole, I've got too many to to
It's
be able to go into it.
interesting. And do you know what? Actually, this is very interesting because I feel like you could, honestly, it's very rare where we've seen, again, like I said, South Asian faces prominently, in adventure films, historically speaking, in the West.
Mhm.
And I think this could be something very interesting, Bharata, as well. And I think it's wonderful you said about keeping that child in you alive. But do you kind of feel that sometimes, because life, as I said, can get very overwhelming, whether you're an artist or not? Do you kind of feel like doing such films in a way it kind of helps you to distract you from the morbidity of daily life and the hardship that we constantly face? Do you feel like it kind of transports you away as well? Do you feel that sense of escapism?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the action films and, thriller films like that are designed to do that, right? Initially, they kind of, a lot of it is escapism. So yes, when I'm doing it, I do get a sense of escapism, but that's not my goal. Even with Andor, like it is a swashbuckling adventure, but what I find the most what I love the most about Andor is so much of it is rooted in our reality. It's, like you were saying, a lot of these stories are sort of warped versions of our reality. And ultimately, I don't think you can actually enjoy a film from the beginning to the end if there isn't something about it that's relatable, and that's something that's
Mm, mm,
even if there is an element of escapism, you've got to have something in there that can
mm,
hook you in, which is I see myself in that, or I see someone I know in that, or whatever. And yeah, great thing about Andor is it's not just about the adventure of being a rebel. It's mainly about how difficult it is to be a rebel in this on this in this universe, sure, but also I think what people are going to relate to in that is especially now, because politics around the world is really um
changing.
changing. The word, that's a very good word for it. Yeah, it's coming to a boiling point, it feels sometimes, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It can, I think a lot of people relate to it because it's people who are fighting for their basic rights, but also for their lives, fighting for change,
Mm.
for
Mm.
freedom. Um, like for example, the Iranian protests
Oh
right
yeah,
now
which you've
going
been
on.
posting a lot about, which is amazing to see, by the way. I love
Yeah,
the
well,
way
I
you've been
just
posting.
feel so strongly about it. It's,
It's
I don't want to get
heartbreaking.
into, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
absolutely
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking
It
and
is.
terrifying. But I think real art is when you are able to be a mirror uh to some of the horrors in the world. But what is great is when we're talking about different angles from storytelling, seeing other perspectives.
Hmm.
And that is something that TV and film can do.
Can do.
You can have different characters who have different objectives and have had different lives and different stories.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't
Yeah, no, no, no. I totally
gone
get
off
you.
gone off
Yeah,
topic
no,
a lot.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. But look, on a final note, Varada, and I know this is a bit of a jarring question, I think, to many actors because I think we're all always scouting for our next big gig or our next massive venture. But what I mean, our post Andor, what else can we look forward to from you? I mean, what are you most interested in exploring next?
Um, I want to be the lead. I want to be the lead in something. That's what I'm aiming for.
Right.
I want to be I'd like to be the lead, whether that be in a comedy or as a romantic lead or in action. I finally feel I'm mentally ready for it, which is a weird thing to say. I don't think, of course, I'd have loved to have had it earlier than this, but I don't think I would have brought justice to it. Whereas now I feel as an actor ready, as a human ready, and also I feel like I've been able to take account of my own story and my own life, and piece things together. And I'm figuring out things in the world. And I've got all these tools now because of counseling to kind of break things down a lot more. And that's what I'm aiming for, a lead, um, to bring a story to life, to be able to really get hands on with it.
Wow, that's amazing. So, is there anything else we can look forward to? Are you still in the process of reading a few scripts and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I'm actually filming right now, so this isn't my house. This is a hotel
Oh,
room.
I was gonna say, it looks really lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm filming a show right now called Annika. It's the second season, so it's also a brilliant detective series. It's got a female lead, Nicola Walker, who is an angel. She is wonderful, and it is an honor to be able to watch her work because she's so good. And it brings out the best in me as well, which is
Mhm.
lovely. It's so easy to work opposite.
Yeah.
So there's that. I also earlier this year did a TV show with Mira Sayal,
Oh, nice.
which is brilliant. It's called Mrs. Sidhu Investigates, another female-led
Oh,
TV show,
lovely.
South Asian. Um, so look out for that. And yeah, I don't know. That's what I've done so far.
That's
Fingers
great.
crossed.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot more exciting things coming your way.
I hope
Uh,
so.
and I hope to actually see you work in more Malayalam films also. You know, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be wonderful. We were just talking about our mutual love and adoration for Mohanlal so, before the interview started. So I hope to see you one day working with him and some amazing talents from Malayalam, even in Britain as well. We've got a lovely filmmaker named Thalia Sam who's very
Yes.
talented, and I would love to see you two collaborate one day.
That
So
would be great to work with her. Yeah. It's not worked out yet, but we'll
yes,
find it somewhere.
definitely no. But look, Varda, it's been such a pleasure to have you on Filme Shilmy and keep making us proud. And I hope you keep getting all the dream roles that you wish for.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Thank you.